there are studies where they've taken rats and they put the rats in very tight spaces. And in those tight spaces, I mean, the rats don't like living that tight, even though they are somewhat social. Some people would argue, but to make sure the rats don't start eating each other or something, you feed them. You give the rats all they need: food, drink, water. You give them nutritious food, the kind of food a rat prefers. And rats can, of course, eat a lot of things humans can't eat. Rats got enzymes and stuff we don't. They're very good at surviving. But anyway, so what happens when you cramp these rats together and you make sure that they get all the nutrients and things that they need while being that unnaturally crowded? Well, they start to develop really strange neuroses. I mean, really strange stuff. Some of them will turn into so-called beautiful ones. And those are rats who don't engage in sex anymore. A lot of the rats stop engaging in sex. And some of them simply start to groom, and they groom, and they groom themselves, and they groom themselves, and they groom. So they have really nice fur, and they look really pretty for a rat. The problem is that they are slowly dying now. And it's not because of predators or a lack of food. It's because they are, like, their stress is so limited, while at the same time living really, really, really crowded. And my thought is that now I live in a part of Sweden that is much more crowded. There's agriculture. There people are growing things everywhere almost, and I'm not really used to that because the part of Sweden I come from is, I guess, half fields where crops grow and fields where cows eat and stuff, but then a lot of it is forest. And here you will have to jump into a car and go for quite a bit to find a real forest. You can find some trees here or a park or something, but to get to that real nature, you simply won't do. And so it's beautiful here, but I feel very no, it's not crowded here really. London is crowded in my opinion. That is fucking crowded. It's almost claustrophobic. I can only imagine what it would be like in Japan or something. If I went to Japan, I would probably constantly want to go up in the mountains and walk in the forests and stuff, because I like when there's a lot of people, but not really a lot of people. And I have also observed that this being an old medieval city I live now, not really a huge city really, if you look at the city itself, but a lot of people come here to work and go to the university each day. So there's a lot of activity for a city of this size. And of course, as I said, a lot of agriculture around the city. I mean, this province is one of the great bread baskets of Sweden. They grow a lot of sugar beets and stuff here. a lot of grains, and probably a lot of things I'm not, I don't think of as Swedish, because this is quite a bit for the southwest, and the climate is a lot warmer and milder here. But I have observed that those things that people tend to call decadence, I will not go into any further what those things are, you can just imagine. But those things are much more common when there's when it's a lot of people crammed together, and you got a high population density. And the question is it because people of a how would you say? I want another word than degenerate, but let's go with degenerate now. So, is it that the cities draw those people to the city, or is it that the city itself can have a degenerating effect of some sort? That might be true. And I have been thinking a lot of the suicide rates in Japan, and I've been thinking, I think Korea has those too, and I think that they have a huge population density, and also they have really a lot of pressure on them. And I think that generally pressure is good, but I don't think that a culture that is so based on the pressure itself and everyone should be a boss, I think that's really a rigid opinion, because some people are great under some form of boss, and some people are great as bosses, and some people are fucking terrible at being bosses. Anyway, but I think that in Japan that one piece of the puzzle why people are killing themselves is because they are unnaturally crammed together in that in those cities, and it would be interesting to look further into this. I know I have. There's a great book on this by an Indian scientist, Milind Watve. And Watve has put, and I guess it's not just him, it's his team and stuff, but they have looked at statistics and geography, and has come to the conclusion that when people live really close to each other, their passive aggressiveness goes up, way up, and their physical aggression just goes down. And as passive aggression goes up, it seems that all forms of diabetes goes up as well. And this is interesting, because then if you look at places where people don't live as densely and eat the same stuff as the people who live in those denser areas, people in the denser areas will still have more diabetes. So it implies that it's something to do with the social way of things leading to diabetes. In fact, that book has the hypothesis, the main hypothesis, in my opinion, of that book is that diabetes is submissiveness. It's how you this alpha thing and stuff. I'm not too fond of it, but if you look at a lot of vertebrate animals who are social, you will find that those animals who are really submissive will have really poor insulin metabolism. They will have diabetes or something close to diabetes. So But it's really hard to look at what's chicken and egg in this stuff. Is it the society that does it, or is it the other way around, or something else? Well, but it's interesting to observe the differences.